Welcome back to Mind-Body Relationship, where we talk about the mind, the body, and the relationship. Joining me today is Dr. Lori Ponsford-Hill.
Hey there, Emerald. How are you doing?
I'm really good.
That's good. Seeing as we're in the midst of a crisis, holy crow, what is happening out there?
Chaos.
It truly is.
Yeah.
We went to Walmart on Thursday, and believe it or not, what ended up happening was I was standing there looking around thinking to myself, what is going on? Because people were walking by me with huge containers of water and juice and toilet paper. And I was just, and it was a feeling of a panic.
It really was. That, like, we were at the checkout and there wasn't like a huge line or crowd, but there were people standing behind us, like almost trying to push us out of the way so that they could check out.
I mean, it was just before March break, and I was thinking to myself, okay, has there been an announcement? Is there something that we're behind here in regards to knowledge? Because maybe it's just that a lot of people are going on vacation and they need a lot of toilet paper to do it.
Bad camping experiences, I guess.
I know.
But then we discovered that, later that day when we checked the news, that March break was extended by 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks. So we thought, okay, so that's it, right? Then on Sunday, we actually went to White Oaks Mall in London. And we were walking around a, very empty mall.
Yeah.
At first I thought to myself, great, parking right close to the door, first time ever. And then we started to realize as we're walking around, there's actually stores that are closed.
Yeah.
And it was quiet.
Yeah.
And there were very few people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we entered into Lush.
Oh, yeah, we went into Lush. I love Lush. I love soaps. And typically what they have is samples for you to try. And they, of course, had a few samples that you could smell. But the woman came up to us and said, try to not touch anything, as well if you're interested in buying something, we have your product behind the desk. But for your sanitary needs and safety, you're not allowed to touch anything.
It was kind of shocking.
A little disturbing. And all the cosmetic samples were gone. Like, you could look at the pictures.
But that was it.
Yeah.
And then they were actually really having an employees meeting while it is that we were in the store.
Yeah.
There was nobody else in the store except for us.
Yeah.
And the employees meeting was to do with how it is not only at White Oaks Mall, but at Masonville Mall, that the hours were being decreased from 12 to 6 per day, and that people were going to be losing their jobs. They were actually really going to be limiting the hours that they were going to be able to work. And, well, of course, they seemed to be shocked. We were kind of shocked as we were standing there. And we're just kind of thinking to ourselves, what is happening?
What's going on?
Yeah. And then we went to Hudson's Bay, very similar story. And the salesperson told us the exact same thing, basically, that the mall's hours were declining, not for like a week or 2 weeks, but the shocker, for 2 months.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, is that not the most scariest thing you've ever heard?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the first time ever.
Yeah.
Number 1 topic of conversation, right? And last night had the opportunity to watch 2020.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, so are they actually really trying to scare us, or is this for real?
Well, it's hard to say because, especially on 2020, the doctor that they had there talking mentioned, some facts. They were talking about the death rate in Italy, and she said, well, it makes sense because older people are having trouble with this, and it makes sense that there's a higher death rate in Italy because the population the majority of it is older people. And the news hosts immediately took it and was like, that's haunting to know the death rate that's skyrocketing. Just the language that was used was incredibly like, well, wait a minute. I'm like, we're bouncing back and forth from this is terrifying, and maybe there are some facts here that aren't being divulged that we need to know.
And then, of course, today, here we are, St. Patrick's Day, of course. And the first thing I hear on the radio is that not to go to restaurants, not to go to bars. That's what they were saying last night on 2020 as well. And I was thinking to myself, wow, like that's huge. No restaurants, no bars.
Yeah.
And then, of course, later on we heard about the announcement today from the Premier, which is, of course, that we're in a state of emergency.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? The first thing that went through my mind is, well, there's no snow, and the Toronto mayor is not having to call in the army to do with that. So what is actually really happening? And so what really got me too was that they were saying, of course, don't go to a restaurant, don't go to a bar, right? And keep yourself safe. This social distancing, 6 feet. Ooh, we're really pushing it here. And best practice. And I was thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, because here, well, we are at work.
Yeah.
Right. So, what does that mean if everybody's staying at home? Right? Because the truth is that you still have to call in. You still have to get your groceries.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody has to drop them off. Right? Doctors are still working at the hospital. Nurses have to actually still do their job. Yeah. Right? There are essential services that need to happen.
Yeah.
Right? What about them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a little ridiculous when you think about it that he's closing down the bars and the restaurants, but at the same time you're still allowed to pick up food in takeout and delivery from these places, which brings us to our topic of Typhoid Mary.
Yes, that's the first thing that I thought about was Typhoid Mary, because the truth is that she also too was somebody who is a carrier, right, of typhoid, and she was working in...
She was a cook. She was
a cook,
family cook who jumped from family to family. And she didn't know at first until a doctor pursued her and figured it out. And she was put in quarantine. And then they finally convinced her, like, you carry it, you're not going to die from it, but you do carry it. It affects other people. You need to be aware of that. You can't work in food anymore. Well, when she was released, she got fed up with her pay because she couldn't work anything else other than a launderer. And she didn't get paid the same, so she changed her name to Mary Brown, and then became a cook again, continuously infecting people, 2 more of which died because of...
She was touching their food.
She was just touching their food. So the takeout and the delivery situation is a little...
questionable. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, wait a minute. How does one thing apply and not the other?
Exactly.
Right? Because to me, that's just as scary, right, in regards to your food intake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So stay safe by not only the social distancing, but also to be in control of whatever it is that you are putting in your mouth.
Exactly.
Which is really, really important. I remember the movie Contagion. Did you see that movie?
I did, yes.
Oh my goodness. And it was so funny, so bizarre when we were watching that movie. The wrong bat meets the wrong pig is what it is that they said. And then, of course, this virus erupted. Gwyneth Paltrow was in the movie. And brought it to the States, of course, right? And, of course, it was like immediate death because it's Hollywood and... it has to be big.
Yeah.
But, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is this movie.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and scary.
Very scary.
And the woman, of course, who was the investigator, what did she do? Which I thought was also the most stupidest thing ever. But she ordered room service.
And she was sitting there on her bed at like 4 a.m, experiencing these symptoms, calling the front desk and asking for all the names of the people who might have touched her food. And I was like, you're writing a list of people who touched your food and it didn't go through your head?
Not to order room service? Have your food in a baggie. But anyways, but that to me is proof positive, right? That food can be contaminated just by breathing on it. I mean, we need social distancing. The truth is, there should be social distancing from the food, too.
Yeah, stay 6 feet away from me, but you can put your fingers all up in there.
Touch my plate, please. No. No. So anyway, it's so interesting, right? Because then I start to think back about my experiences that I've come across over time and how it is that we've been impacted by them, right? And of course, there's SARS, which was a big impact because the truth is that was the first time I think that I'd come across the handshaking ban.
Yeah.
Right. And of course the rubbing of the hand sanitizer. Right. And all of a sudden that became very, very popular from that.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And do you remember SARS at all? Because you must have been very little.
I was little, but I was in the baseball team, and I remember because I personally felt disrespected by the other team. I didn't know what was going on, but we all had to touch elbows. And I thought, well, you think I'm gross, but then I came home and you were like, no, there's this big SARS thing. So.
Yeah, so it was like 2002 to 2004, something like that.
Yeah.
And over that period of time, 774 people died.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a really, really big thing. And they're actually really calling this, what's happening now, SARS-2.
Yes.
So we have a number 2. The other one was Legionnaires Disease. Do you ever recall the Legionnaires Disease? The last outbreak was in Toronto, actually, at an old age home. And the reality is that it has a tendency to accumulate in air conditioning, right? And so that creates the influenza virus, right? So, which is interesting, right? So SARS, what we're dealing with now, the COVID-19 coronavirus, is actually influenza. That's why it is that we're talking about the Spanish flu in the announcements and how devastating that was. And because the truth is, it's all actually coronavirus.
Yeah.
Yes. And I actually had influenza when it was that I was a teenager. Long time ago. But I do remember that tremendously because of the pressure on my chest. Of course, because your lungs fill up. Right? And you have a very, very hard time breathing, separate it off, but not like what it is that's happening today. There was no social distancing back then, right? I mean, of course, you stay home because you're sick, but my mom still had my friends come in to see how horrible I actually really was looking. There was a reason why it was that I wasn't going to school. But, and of course, my mother was British, so as soon as you're sick, for whatever reason, you cannot shower or bathe.
What?
I know. What is that? It's like a cultural thing.
Ew.
In England, I mean, they don't have that much water, back then. So everybody conserved the water. I think that's why.
But which is stupid because I went to England. They don't have sun, okay? All they have is water constantly raining from the sky. Which is funny because when I was in England, I was there by myself and I had influenza and I quarantined myself off in my little room, my tiny itty bitty little room. I was in a closet and it was a horrible experience because I felt like I couldn't go out and talk to anybody because I just certainly didn't want them to get it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And it's kind of scary, isn't it?
I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, you have no idea what it is that's going on. But the truth is that now with what it is that's happening today, not only is it that everybody, because of media, social media especially, right, a lot of information is being passed around, nobody knows what it is that's actually really true. Nobody knows what it is that's actually really false, right? I've heard all kinds of things, from somebody ate a snake to bats.
To fish eating those bats.
And then so China blaming the U.S., or I mean, it's just crazy what's going on there.
Yeah.
The bottom line of it is that, of course, when they show the maps, it's slowly encroaching into Ontario, and of course, hence what it is that's happening now, right? So, I mean, the fear factor is what it is that's gripping people, I think, and that's what's happening at Walmart. That's why it is people are, grabbing a hold of whatever it is that they're feeling that they need in order to keep themselves safe. And so that's, the experience of mass hysteria.
Yeah.
Right? It's really like being in a movie.
Yeah, I was shocked driving here today because I was looking around. When I drive to work, I never see my neighbors' cars because they're at work. And basically all of my neighbors' cars were parked in their driveway.
Yeah, it's really disconcerting. And so many people are, calling in and saying, are you there? Right? Are you available? And, yes, of course, we are still here, right? And the beauty of counseling is that there's also phone counseling, there's also Skype counseling, right? So it doesn't have to be in-person counseling.
Yes.
So, of course, keep coming in, because that's actually really important. And I mean, defining what essential service is, the truth is that each individual gets to define it based upon what it is that their needs are, right? So I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's important to develop some sort of mantra, as it is that we really don't know what's going on. We don't really know how bad it is out there or how bad it's going to get. And so it is really good to have something that you're saying to yourself in order to keep yourself calm.
Yeah, that's very important.
Mm-hmm. So whatever that is for you, we were trying to come up with something, right? Kind of like a keep calm and carry on.
Yeah.
Right? Keep calm and everything in moderation.
Right. Well, the stores are enforcing that now. You can only buy one packet of toilet paper.
So true. My real worry, if I was to say that I had a worry, is the ramifications of what it is that's going to happen. Like once you push that snowball off the hill, right? How big is it going to get, and how fast is it going to get, right? Because the concern for me is, as it is that people are going home and people are losing their jobs. I mean, when they announced about the flights being canceled, and of course now there's going to be layoffs, right? Yes. And so there's ramifications for closing restaurants. There's ramifications for closing bars. I mean, people need to live. They need to pay their bills. Right? And what I've been hearing is, you can get EI. Well, people have to pay into it.
Yes, really.
It's just not like a magic amount of money.
Even Airbnb, I know, typically Airbnb is just this kind of side hustle, but I do know a couple of people who don't work consistent jobs, and a big portion of their income strives from Airbnb, and Airbnb is now, because they have to, people are canceling, and they get a full refund, and they're really worried about it because how long is this going to go on when the summer months come? It's almost like Jaws, you know what I mean? People's lives depend on the beaches.
Yes.
And now there's this coronavirus swimming around in the water. Well, what are we going to do?
Exactly. So here, is another area which is to do with, of course, the stock market.
Yes.
Right? And so when you think back, in the 20s when the stock market crashed and how devastating that was at that time, that suffered, I believe it was a 9% decrease.
It was a 12 decrease, and then the next day was 11% decrease.
Okay.
So what people did was they immediately, I think it was like 16 million or so stockholders sold their shares, and then it just
crashed
completely.
Yes.
Black Monday and Tuesday, I believe. Those were the days that it happened.
Mm-hmm. And then there was Black Thursday.
Yes.
Right? And that was a 9% decrease in the stock market. And what happened just the other day?
It was a 9.99% decrease.
9.99. March 12th, 2020. Memorable now. Right? So I think it's really important because we do have the opportunity to purchase online, right? And I think that it's really important that we do keep buying and keep our existence steady.
Well, what's very interesting as well is that I just read this before we had this conversation. I believe in the UK they put $300 million pounds, into the stock market to hold it up.
Wow.
Which is exactly what happened on Black Thursday when it dropped, and they propped it up by buying more shares. But it wasn't sustainable.
They couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it.
No, it crashed anyway, right? So, I mean, that's the other thing about it, right? Is that the economy runs by purchase power, and we need to keep up that economy, right? And it's fine to do the social distancing, but the truth of the matter is that we need to keep doing life, because we don't want that snowball going downhill and crashing.
Yeah.
Right? We need to be able to use our resources in order to be able to keep life consistent. And I think that's really important, right? Yes, consistency is key. So for all the people who are really struggling out there, for all of the people who are exceedingly anxious and worried about what it is that's happening out there, and with the confusing information of what it is to do, I think that what's really most important is to just keep saying your support statement to yourselves, not to get overwhelmed by it, right? This too will pass. And so, and just keep thinking, believing positives, right? Keep calm, carry on. Right? Consistency is key. The mind is prone to anxiety. The truth is that that's an age-old process. It's meant to keep us safe, right? And so the body holds on to the trauma, feels like we need to actually do something, and it is important to do something. And our relationships are key. And as much as it is that we're being told to isolate or separate ourselves off, we need to be in relationship, and we also need to be able to be in good relationship with both our mind and our body. The key is to calm the mind, right? Not to get into the anxiety. The anxiety is there to tell you that there's something amiss, and there is something amiss. However, not to get lost in it, right? And for the body to actually be doing something. So that means that if you want to go for a run, go for a walk, right? Do some relaxation, do your breathing techniques, whatever it is that might be for you, and to connect with others. And that's what it is that social media is there for you to be able to connect in relationship with one another, right? And even in regards to social distancing, well, make sure that you're with safe people and stay safe.
Thank you so much, Lori. And thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe, stay calm. We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.